Hey there, content heroes. Josiah here. Happy Saturday. Went out this morning and had a lovely brunch date with my wife to celebrate my birthday this week, and everything else has been going on this week. It was really nice because it's the first time out without kids since we had the new baby this summer. So there's a lot of things to celebrate, and it was amazing to actually sit down and have a meal together. And as much as we love our kids, not having to think about everything else that's going on with three little ones, and all of the all of the chaos that usually ensues with that. So anyway, happy Saturday. I wanted to stop in here real quick and go through the next chapter in my new book, From Content Hero to Business Hero: The Secret to Creating Content That Fuels Business Growth. So last week, we talked about, what did we talk about last week? I'm all over the place here today. So we talked about overcoming imposter syndrome and how that's really the first step into on this journey of becoming a business leader. And so the next thing that I wanted to talk about, or the next chapter, is taking imperfect action. So we've talked about this a lot in the context of helping us get out of our heads and take steps toward the thing that we want. But there's another piece of this that we haven't really dug into. And so I wanted to take a few moments here to go further on that. And that is that taking imperfect action also means that you have the freedom to fail. And there's so much power in that we overlook a lot. So what I mean by that is that when you are, when I started out with the podcast, I very much went into this mode of taking imperfect action, and it was so that I could, start moving in this direction before I started overthinking and talking myself out of it. But the other piece that it gave me was that because I was doing that and I wasn't so attached to what I was putting out there, it allowed me to have fun with it. It allowed me to experiment, to try different things, see what worked and see what didn't work. And in that, I was able to learn so much faster and get a clarity so much faster around who my audience really is, what's important to them, how can I show up and serve in a way that's valuable, all of that stuff. And that wouldn't have come if I had been afraid to take a step out and put things out before they were perfect, right? So in this chapter, we really dig into that. And Dana Malstaff, so the founder of Boss Mom, has a great quote here, and she talks about making space for play, and it takes failure out of the equation. So when I talked to her on the podcast, she said, I always say in business, we need to find room to play, because instead of feeling like we're putting something out and it's failing, if you're playing, then failure is not really a part of playing. Failure is something you do when you're trying really hard and it doesn't work. And I love that, because this idea of play is so crucial to not just the creative aspect of it, but it allows you to detach yourself, like I was saying, from the outcome and really focus on the process and the journey, and experimenting and trying things. And you're always going to come through with a better end result when you're not so attached to what it is that you're doing. And so as entrepreneurs, when we give ourselves permission to remove the judgment of failure. So that's another thing, is like the failure piece is really about, we're afraid of what other people will think of us. And so when we remove that judgment, then we can iterate and create content with a fresh perspective that actually drives growth. So when I interviewed Azul Terronez, the co-founder of Authors Who Lead, who is just he's so awesome. I love the way that he frames things and puts things in perspective. And so what he said in the same vein is like when you're in this mode of play, it also helps you stay in a place where you can stay curious. And when you stay curious, you notice things that you wouldn't have normally noticed, and discover things you wouldn't normally discover. And so you catch things that other people miss. And that is so key and so valuable to creating a unique perspective and a unique lens for viewing the world and for creating content. And I loved his quote here. He said, most people are looking for the next big idea or the big thing. And I tell people that it's a bit of a misnomer. So most big ideas are actually small ideas that most people just overlooked, but you happen to notice. So it seems big now because people are talking about it, but the truth is it's really a small idea that seems so obvious, but somehow everyone else missed it but you. And that is so key in creating this content that really drives growth. You've heard about when we, one of the other themes in this week's episode where I brought in 13 different entrepreneurs to talk about how their content position them as a leader in their niche. Over and over again, we talked about the theme. There was a theme of consistency, but another theme was that you need to put yourself into your content, which we'll be talking about more next week, but in a way that makes your content unique because it's through your unique lens and the small ideas that you have and the things that you see that other people miss. So my question to you is, are you overlooking your small ideas? And what becomes possible for you in your business when you choose to stay curious about simple things that seem so ordinary that they're overlooked? So think about that for a minute. If you could stay curious in your business, in your content, that you start seeing the things that other people miss, what becomes possible for you in your business, in your content, in what you're trying to achieve? And it's also really important when you're, to stay in this experimentation phase, in this place of play and curiosity, because it helps you really dial in what your niche is, which Stephanie Campanella of Nail the Niche, when I talked to her on the podcast, she really hit home on how important it is to dial that in, because that helps you really become the best person for the best solution for one specific problem for one specific group of people. And that's how you really start to become a leader for that audience. And then the last piece here that I wanted to hit on is that, so in episode 35, I interviewed Rachel K Albers, which if you haven't listened to the episode or you don't know anything about her, I highly recommend you go check out her YouTube channel, Awkward Marketing, and follow her stuff. So she has, first of all, she's hilarious. So she calls herself a business comedian. And so, yes, that's a thing. And so she has more of an improv background, and she takes marketing concepts and creates sketches out of them and creates these comedy scenes, and they're hilarious and they're unique and they're sticky. She has I don't remember what she told me, but millions and millions of GIF views. So and yes, I say GIF, not GIF. She's taken all of her videos and repurposed them into GIFs as well. And she's got a crazy, insane amount. It was something like, I don't know, 30 million views of her GIFs. It's just insane. And so, but what she does is, her approach to it is, marketing content, there's really nothing new under the sun, right? Yes, there are new tactics you can try, but it's all just sort of reframings on the same core principles that have been around for 100 years. And so she's not trying to invent the wheel and actually say something new. And so I wanted to read her quote here for you. She said, it's not about saying something new. It's not about reinventing the wheel. Everybody's really obsessed with coming up with this idea that no one has ever thought of before, but that's a losing battle. There's nothing new under the sun. And so my whole focus is not about coming up with a new idea. It's not about what you say, it's about how you're saying it. That's the difference maker here. And that is so true. And that's really sort of sums up everything that we've been talking about. And so, but to get there, to get to that point, you can't be afraid to fail, right? You have to try, you have to experiment, you have to play. And not only will that help you gain clarity, but it's also a lot more fun. And there's so much, it's more energizing. And when you come to your content, to your business with that energy, other people see that and they resonate with that, and it makes them want to engage and join in with you and come along for the ride. And so there's so many benefits to taking that imperfect action, stepping out, giving yourself the freedom to fail. And that's the next step on your journey to creating content that fuels business growth. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Where do you feel like, what's possible for you if you start showing up this way? And where do you feel like in your business or in your content that you're still kind of hiding behind that perfectionism? How can you start to take those steps toward imperfect action and giving yourself that freedom to fail? Okay, so that was chapter 2. Thank you for joining me today. And go pick up, if you haven't already, go get a copy of the book, download for free at businessherobook.com. And once again, I'm Josiah, for those of you who don't already know. And until next time, go be a hero, everyone.